of station staff, management, and advertisers.
It's time for the most interactive radio program in Las Vegas today. It's time for Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro. Brian will talk sports, politics, entertainment, and anything that matters to you. Feel free to call Brian at 702-221-7283.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Now, Pushing the Limits, here's Brian Shapiro.
What's going on, everybody? Very happy. What is it today? Is it Wednesday or is it Thursday? It's Thursday. Yeah, see, I must be in the bunker. I must have Alzheimer's. I must be Joe Biden. Welcome to the show, everybody. So glad that you could join us on a very busy news day. Thank you for listening. Could be on the FM AM dial, KSHP. Could be on the Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network. Could be on TikTok, on Twitch, on YouTube, on X. We are everywhere. And like I said, we are very appreciative that you make us a part of your day, and we have a lot to get to. So coming up at the bottom of the hour, you could call him a Republican political strategist, a Republican operative. He certainly has represented a lot of election deniers, even in this past election here. His name is Woodrow Johnson, and he owes me an apology on the air, so he's a stand-up guy. So he's coming in, and we'll explain coming up later. But, boy, he represents his company, a lot of staunch Trump supporters. So I know we're going to get into it with him, and it's going to be a good conversation. You don't want to miss it coming up at the bottom of the hour. A lot to get to today. I did want to start with the 10 Commandments. Yes, if you haven't already heard. So Louisiana has become the first state to require that the 10 Commandments be displayed in every public school classroom. This is very important to MAGA Republicans. It's the latest move from the GOP-dominated legislature, pushing a conservative agenda under this new governor. Now, the legislation that Republican Governor Jeff Landry signed into law yesterday requires a poster-sized display of the 10 Commandments in large, easily readable font in all public classrooms from kindergarten to state-funded universities. Now, obviously, there's a lot of opponents of this out there that say it's constitutionality and vowed to challenge it in court. It's unconstitutional. I do find this very hilarious, though, because a lot of these ultra-right MAGA Republicans, many of the people out there that are Christian, they call themselves good, wholesome Christians, and they're huge supporters of Donald Trump, right? And they preach the 10 Commandments. You shall not commit adultery. You support Donald Trump. He's cheated on every wife he ever had. Do I have to go into the details there about these stupid hypocrites on the far right? You shall not steal. Do I need to talk about Trump University? Do I need to talk about the taxes? Do I need to talk about the charity organizations that have been stolen, money of stealing? And you know, the word thief or stolen could be used in a number of different ways, but these cheap Trump Bibles that he's selling for $60, hawking these Bibles, these $400, $500 gold sneakers that are worth about $2 to make in China. I mean, when you look at the 10 Commandments and you look at what these Republicans want to be put up in every school, by the way, I guess there's no separation between church and state anymore. That is just been gone by the Republican Party. They're not able to separate church and state. It is a joke, and the governor of Louisiana is an embarrassment. And we have callers from Louisiana who have called into this show even this week. What an embarrassing governor you have. Another middle-aged white guy who wears the Donald Trump knee pads, who preaches Christianity, wants the 10 Commandments up in every school, and supports Donald Trump, the liable sexual abusing rapist, who's now a 34-count felon, and they call themselves the Law and Order Party. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke is what it is. You know, and my question is, why is having like a rainbow in a classroom considered indoctrination, right? We hear this word indoctrination all the time. God forbid there's a gay pride flag in a classroom or some sort of rainbow in a classroom, but yet the 10 Commandments is not indoctrination. Can somebody please explain that to me? Why is that? A gay pride flag, which I think most gay people would say represents equality, being prideful of who you are, no matter what your sexuality is, being happy for who you are, and being okay to be comfortable in your own shoes and be treated as equals. That's indoctrination, because to most people, that's what the gay pride flag represents, right? But the Ten Commandments, no, that's not indoctrination at all. It is absolutely ridiculous. It is absurd. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to play you a video from the Lincoln Project. This is the guy who follows the Ten Commandments. This is the guy who the Republican Party looks up to. This is the guy that the Republican Party, at least many of them, have put up on a pedestal. Yeah, this is the guy that we should look up to when it comes to the Ten Commandments. Listen to this.
I'm proud to be promoting the God Bless the USA Bible. It's my favorite book.
I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody.
Donald Trump found guilty all 34 counts of falsifying business records.
Donald Trump's hush money payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels.
She had an affair with Trump.
I am the chosen one.
The Trump Organization frauded the state of New York.
$354 million.
I'm very greedy.
We must make America pray again.
Yeah, he's the
How
chosen.
stupid are the people of the country to believe this?
Agreed. Agreed. That's the guy. Ladies and gentlemen, he's the chosen one. That's the guy that follows the Ten Commandments. That's the guy who you want to put up on a pedestal. That's the guy. And, you know, I've talked about this before, and I talk about it again, where the reason why Republicans are losing the popular vote ad nauseum, I think, what is it now, 7 of the last 8 presidential elections? Think about what they decide to focus on. This is one of those things. We got to put the Ten Commandments out there. Wait, what brilliant guy thought of that? Oh, we got to make sure these kids look at the Ten Commandments. But why? Oh, I don't know. We need to do it, though. The Republican Party today are obsessed with gender ideology. They're obsessed with banning books. They bitch and whine about Obamacare, yet there's still no replacement plan. It's going to come in 2 weeks, right? What was that, like 6 years ago? They say more guns make us safer. This is the Republican platform, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not making this up. I'm not the one saying this. They are. They say more guns make us safer, which is obviously not true. They're anti-gay marriage. They're obviously anti-abortion. When you look at overturning of Roe versus Wade and what some of these nut jobs on these Supreme Courts in Alabama and Arizona have done, they're crazy. They want to take away a woman's right to choose what to do with her own body, regardless of any exceptions, rape or incest. All they do is attack Dr. Fauci 24/7, conspiracies that he created COVID, election lies. I mean, listen, ladies and gentlemen, it's over and over and over again. That is what they talk about. And I would imagine these are the types of things that Donald Trump will be talking about a week from today. I want to play you a clip. I had someone in studio a while back from a group called My Child's Advocate. And in my opinion, this group is just a bunch of bigoted morons that, decide to protest outside of Target. God forbid if they're selling pro-gay shirts, in Target. They're a despicable organization, in my opinion. And I had a lady come in studio, and we were talking about the issue of the gay pride flag, and she was defending the Confederate flag while saying the gay pride flag represented sex acts. And the reason why I want to play this for you is because you have this moron governor who's forcing the Ten Commandments in every public school because that's what these Republicans want to focus on. And this lady who came in studio for My Child's Advocate has no problem defending the Confederate flag. In fact, would have no problem having the Confederate flag in classrooms. But that gay pride flag, oh no, that's blasphemy. Have a listen to this exchange. Okay, are you okay, since you defended the Confederate flag, would you be okay with a Confederate flag in a classroom?
The Confederate flag isn't having kids have anal sex with each other.
Okay, so you would, so just for the
It
record.
doesn't bother me.
So just for the record. Okay, I just want to be clear.
And if you knew the real
Stephanie is
history of the-
okay with the Confederate flag in
just like a
classrooms.
number of black people in the South fly it, and I'm not offended by them flying it.
So
either,
I'm pretty
because I'm
confident most
sheltered.
I'm pretty confident most black people in this country wouldn't want a Confederate flag in a classroom. So
you're
you're
from the
okay.
South,
So
and black
Stephanie is
people fly
okay
it.
with a
You should make a
Confederate
trip.
flag in a classroom,
Make a
but
trip to
not a
Arkansas.
gay pride flag. Is that a fair
Because I
assessment
think
of your
talking
opinion?
about sex around children is weird.
I'm asking you a
That's why.
question because I want to get
Yes,
your opinion. I don't
don't
want to put
care.
words
Yes,
in
the
your mouth.
Confederate flag represents being a rebel. I'm not offended
Gotcha.
by kids talking about that.
Gotcha.
I am offended by kids being introduced to anal sex.
Gotcha. Okay, so how does a gay pride flag talk about that?
Because you're proud of how you have sex.
Okay, so it's proud of being who you
No,
are.
it's proud of how you have
So I want to
sex,
be
not
clear.
who or
If the
how you have
Confederate
sex.
flag to Stephanie is a positive, it's about being a rebel,
It's being a
and
rebel.
the gay pride flag is about telling kids to have a certain type of
Well,
sex.
it's saying gay sex.
Okay.
So if boys, it means anal sex. Girls, it does. It means scissoring, I guess.
Okay, interesting. Okay, I would disagree with you on the Confederate flag. I think most people in this
Okay.
country would say it represents racism, but
No, well, yeah, that-
and I would say when I
only
see it,
recently. Why
even
did
though
I
I am
know
not,
that?
even though I am not
Ago.
gay,
Mhm.
I would say that people that are gay in this country, I think they should be treated as equals.
Yeah.
You
But
say
don't talk
yeah,
about
but
how they have sex around kids.
how is a gay
I-
pride flag doing that in a classroom?
Because it says the same way if I
What does
wore
it say on a gay pride flag?
the flag itself represents
Represents sex?
gay. Yeah, gay.
Oh, okay.
sexuality.
So okay. I just listen.
What makes someone gay?
Gotcha,
Is how
okay.
they have sex.
Gotcha.
I don't
Okay.
under-
So
you
a
also
gay,
don't think drag queens
so a
are
gay
sexual, so
pride
they're
flag represents how gay people have sex,
What
and the
else is it?
Confederate flag represents being a rebel. Okay, fair enough.
What does the gay flag
Okay,
mean? It
okay.
means I'm gay. What
All
does
right.
what being gay means?
All right.
It means you have sex with your
Well,
same
listen.
gender.
Absolutely insane, right? But to be fair, this woman is not alone. There's a lot of people that feel this way. There's a lot of, sadly, there's too many people that are okay with the Confederate flag, but not okay with the gay pride flag. They're okay with having the 10 Commandments in a classroom. And then they preach about, their kids, right? They don't talk about gun control. They don't talk about our kids being massacred in our classrooms. They certainly don't talk about all the gun violence in this country. And if they do, they're going to blame black people for it or blame Democrats, which is absurd. But they always want to talk about their kids, right? But they'll talk about drag queen reading more than they'll talk about gun violence. You couldn't name me one drag queen reading show where a child was murdered, but they claim they're all being indoctrinated as if going to a drag queen show, oh my God, my kid is going to turn gay, because some of these people are so stupid. They don't seem to realize that many people are born that way. Many people that I know that are gay, they knew they were gay when they were 5 or 6 years old, but these people are not smart enough to understand that. We're talking about very stupid people. That's really what it comes down to. The same types of people that buy the Donald Trump Bibles, the same types of people that buy $750 gold sneakers, the same types of people that have their MAGA flag out in front of their house and have their Confederate flag right next to it, right? But, Laura Trump completely embarrassed herself, as she does on a regular basis when she does any type of interview. And she was saying that she's upset because she doesn't get to see her kids very much. She doesn't get to spend enough time with them. And then she said if she had more time, she wouldn't spend it with her kids, but she would learn French. Folks, you cannot make this stuff up. Listen to this.
All right. Here, next question. Oh, how appropriate. If you did not have to sleep, how would you spend the extra 8 hours? All right. So I lived in France I did a study abroad program there in college, and I spoke fluent French, and I still speak French now, but everybody out there who knows another language, it's like anything. It's like music. It's like whatever it is. If you don't use it, you lose it. And I have a very good family friend who speaks French, and I only text him and only speak to him in French. But other than that, I don't get a lot of time to practice that. I would love to perfect my French again and get very fluent again. I'd love to pick up another language because yo comprendo un poquito español, because I speak French. I understand a little Spanish.
I mean, I guess one of her listeners to her podcast asked that question. She literally just talked about how she doesn't spend enough time with her kids, and her kids are upset about that. And then she's asked what she would do if she had more hours in the day, and she says she would learn French. These are the same people that talk about drag queen reading. I mean, folks, I've had it. I just don't get it. All right, coming up next, he's a Republican political strategist. He is the CEO of Revere Solutions, and some would say a political Republican operative. Some would call him controversial. He is in studio. I give him credit for being here. His name is Woodrow Johnston, and we are going to have a very spirited conversation. I know we will, and you're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be a really good debate, and it's coming up next. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Revere Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Tired of the same old date night? Craving a deeper connection with your partner? O-Box is your escape into a world of romance and passion. Each month, discover a box filled with personalized surprises, exciting activities, and a love story written just for the two of you. Ignite desire, share laughter, and make memories that last a lifetime. Your O-Box journey culminates into a beautiful love novel. Ready to write the first thrilling chapter? Let the O-Box adventure begin. Visit our website, obox.com. That's OBOXXX.com and get started.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840. All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us. A programming note for you. Yes, one of Laura Loomer's right-hand men, associates that work for her, is going to be joining us on the show tomorrow. So you know that's going to be really interesting. Laura Loomer doesn't like me very much, and I don't like her either, so that's okay. But that'll be interesting tomorrow. But, you know, I always appreciate anybody who comes in studio, even though knowing that we might not disagree. I'd rather have guests in studio that disagree with me than agree with me. That's just who I am. I like a good debate. And yesterday I had Donald Trump's campaign manager on. We didn't call each other names. We had a good conversation, and she'll come back on again, and that's the way I like it. So the guy joining us right now in studio, he is a Republican political strategist. He is the CEO of Revere Solutions, and it is kind of a funny story of the reason why he is in studio, and I appreciate him being here, by the way. His name is Woodrow Johnston, and Woodrow, I appreciate you being here, my man. How are you?
I'm good, and, you know, I got to say, Brian, I actually agree with you on one thing. We don't disagree on everything. I think it's really important to have a dialogue between people who have different opinions. And I think, you know, and people don't talk about this enough, I think, honestly, one of the biggest problems in our society right now is that we're taught at a very young age, we can't talk about money, we can't talk about religion, we can't talk about politics. So what that has created is a society where honestly, a lot of millennials now don't know how to handle money. They're broke. They're in debt. They're in college debt. They have all these problems, and they can't handle an opinion that's not their own. So I grew up in San Francisco, probably the most liberal place you can imagine.
It is very liberal.
Yeah.
That is true.
And I believe that that's made me stronger in my own personal conservative beliefs. And because honestly, if your ideas can't face challenge, how strong are they?
Okay, so I agree for the most part with everything you just said, but here's the confusing part.
Sure.
Because one of the reasons why you're here is because you represented a guy named David Flippo who just lost to John Lee. And I wanted to get Flippo on the show, and you've represented, multiple people that have declined to come on this show.
Sure.
And as you know, I've interviewed all sorts of different people. I challenge people, but if someone like you is willing to come in studio, I do everything I can to treat them with respect because I appreciate them being here and taking the time. So why did they not want to come on this show? Why did they refuse? Did you tell them not to come on? Or was that their decision that they said, no, I don't want to go on with that guy? Like, why? I guess that's my question.
Well, so I'm a political strategist. My job is to win elections and advise candidates on what the best course of action for them is to win. I've never told a candidate to not be themselves. I've told people to maybe present the part of themselves that appeal to certain audiences, for sure. And my perception, and I could be wrong, if you could show me, any data that says otherwise, is that your show probably has a lot of people who, probably have the same points of view as you do.
You'd be surprised. I think we took 5 or 6 MAGA callers yesterday.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised.
Okay.
But don't you want to get moderate Republicans? Don't you want to get independents, moderates to maybe vote for your candidate?
Well, moderates make a very small part of Republican primary voters. We live in Nevada. We have a closed primary. You can only vote in the you're an independent. You can't even vote in any primary that's nonpartisan.
Correct. That's correct. Yep.
And so the only people who can vote in that election was people who are conservative, generally speaking. I mean, 90% of people who are registered Republicans support Donald Trump. And that there's that 5-10% that maybe don't, but it's just a math.
Perhaps. I hear what you're saying, Woodrow, but one of my biggest criticisms of Hillary Clinton back in 2016 is that she didn't do enough opposition interviews. Said the same thing about, I'll say the same thing about Joe Biden. Say the same thing about Donald Trump. Donald Trump should go on CNN more. He should go on MSNBC more. Joe Biden should go on Fox News more. To me, I respect people, and this is just me, I respect people a lot more who are willing to be challenged. And I feel like when a candidate who's a staunch MAGA supporter or Republican will only go on, as I like to call it, right-wing echo chamber shows, you're not going to get anybody new, in my opinion, that's going to say, hey, geez, I think I'm going to vote for the guy. They were probably going to vote for that guy anyway.
Sure.
And, a guy like a John Lee comes in here. I don't agree with him on everything, but he does, he's willing to come in, and he won. And I'm not saying that's the only reason or the reason why he won, but I just feel like when people are willing to get into the fire and have a conversation, and I hear a lot of excuses, Brian, you're just going to attack me. You're just going to call me names. No, I'm not. I've interviewed so many different Republicans on this show where I've had a few that went haywire. Joey Gilbert was one of them. Hogan Gidley, we got into it a little bit. Larry Elder, we got into it a little bit. But for the most part, I think most people that have done this show that disagree with me would say, hey, Alan Bigelow's another one locally. I treat them with respect. And so I guess we could fundamentally disagree on that. But I just think for anybody, Republican or Democrat, I think it's a good thing to go on. And I don't even like to use the term opposition. I'm very anti-Donald Trump, okay? I'm very open about that.
Right.
But I just think it's a larger audience, and I just think that's a good thing for any candidate.
So the average, I have to make strategic decisions as a political strategist, right? We have limited time, we have limited resources, right? And I even told you, we'll probably go on your show after the primary's over. The average person, the average everyday person, they'll tell you they vote in every election, and that's just not true. The average person only votes in presidential elections. So we're talking about a small microcosm. So you called it an echo chamber. I mean, yeah, that's kind of the point. We have to talk to the people who are going to vote in this primary.
I hear you. Don't you think in radio in general, don't you think that's just, I just don't understand why the Mark Levin, and I'm going national now, Mark Levin, Sean Hannity, they almost never interview liberals. Almost never. I can't remember the last time Mark Levin interviewed somebody that disagreed with him. I just feel like that's cowardly. I'm not going to focus on local hosts here because, to be honest with you, the Republican hosts in this town don't have any listeners at all. I mean, that's just the bottom line. They just, for the most part, they just don't. We get calls all over the country every day. I took 90 minutes of calls yesterday. And I'm not trying to gloat about it. I'm just saying I'd like to think that, I'm willing to criticize both sides, even though I'm very anti-Donald Trump. I'm also very anti-Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. I just like, I remember Hannity and Combs. I used to really enjoy that show, okay? Because you heard both sides. Back when I think Tucker Carlson was normal, Crossfire was a really good show. And I don't think we have enough of that. We have some of it.
Yeah.
And listen, I get it. MSNBC's way to the left. I understand that. Fox News, way to the right. But I don't know. We can move on from that. But I just think it's good to have
it's a cultural issue that one interview is not going to solve.
Understood. All right, let's get this out of the way. You said you were going to apologize to me. Tell them what you're, because I'm not even sure, actually.
I'm not sure either. So I'm gonna give your viewers some context.
Okay.
So respectfully, you weren't completely respectful when you were asking for my clients to go on your show.
I was getting frustrated, and I apologize if I took it a little bit too far. So I guess I'm apologizing as well.
Okay, I appreciate that. Apology accepted.
I'm very impulsive on social media.
Yes.
And I was very frustrated that, okay, I interrupted you, and I apologize for that. That's my ADD. But here's why I was a little frustrated. John Lee comes in studio. He's willing to have a couple debates with me. Or conversations, whatever you want to call it. You guys took part of that conversation as he had liberal views, which I respectfully disagree with you. I don't think he said anything in the interview that was liberal, but he was willing to come in and have a conversation. And then you were calling him out, who was endorsed by Donald Trump, by the way, John Lee. You were calling him out for not having a date with your opponent when the guy's not even, Flippo's not even willing to come in studio and debate me and have a conversation with me. I just thought that was very hypocritical, and that's why that frustrated me a little bit. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
I can't say I agree. I mean, you're not running for office.
I'm not.
And like I said, I have to make strategic decisions. They made the strategic decision not to debate us, which I understand. I probably would have made the same decision if I were them. Because you've pointed out that John Lee was the more moderate candidate in that race.
I would agree with that.
You even celebrated when Trump endorsed him, saying, "Hey, he's a moderate, and I want more moderates to win." Right? I mean, I'm paraphrasing.
I certainly didn't celebrate it when Trump endorsed him, but I think John Lee's a decent, good man. So,
I agree.
I don't think he's a bad guy. And by the way, I don't think Flippo's a bad guy either. I just didn't like the fact that you guys used my show in one of his commercials. I thought that was kind of, an edited tape, so to speak. But anyway, go ahead. I interrupted you again. Go ahead.
Well, your audience is welcome to look up that clip, and I don't think we took anything out of context. You might disagree. That's okay. I think it was fair game. I just think that if, and we even said, if you want to do the debate, we could have done it here. But
I would have been happy to do it.
Yeah. But he didn't want to. At the end of the day, he didn't want to do the debate. So anyway, I forgot what we were talking about, actually.
The reason why you're here, that's okay. The reason why you're here, I don't know why you wanted to apologize to me.
So, okay. I'll give the context to your audience. Okay.
And I'll try not to interrupt.
So you were pretty upset that my clients wouldn't go on your show.
Well, frustrated. Yeah.
And I said, and I was probably also frustrated with how insistent you were on this. And I said, listen, and you challenged, my making skills on a campaign. I stand by that decision. But they, I kind of got a little cocky, and I said, listen, if we win, I'll go on your show and I'll apologize. But if I win, I'll go on your show and you should apologize to me. And that was the context.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
fair enough.
So, look, I apologize because I promised I would. And
well, I appreciate you being here.
Yeah,
and being a stand-up guy for doing that.
And I appreciate you being, respectful to me, and especially even at the Trump event.
Yeah. Can I talk about that with you?
Go ahead, sure.
So I see Woodrow at the Trump rally, and you've probably seen some of my videos that went viral. It got a lot of attention. And I see you there, and you've always been, for the most part, I would say, very respectful to me. So I go up to you, and that's why I shake your hand and say hello. And then this lunatic comes up to us. Can you explain what happened there? Because you don't even have to say his name, because I didn't even know who he was. I'll be honest with you, I didn't remember who he was. This lunatic Trump supporter comes up to us when we're joking with each other, we're having a respectful conversation, and this guy gets right in my face, and you were right there to see that. Like, what? Tell everybody what you saw there.
Well, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. Every single person lives in their own echo chamber. So when he saw you there, he probably assumed you were a conservative Trump supporter, but you were, but
In
you
my
said
Celtic jersey.
But you said bad things about Trump. So
Yeah.
why are you here? You shouldn't be here. So I can only assume.
I don't get that though.
Yeah.
Like if somebody was wearing a Trump hat and they were at a Biden rally, I doubt that you'd see Biden people saying, "Get the hell out of here," and getting in somebody's face.
I think you probably would.
In that way?
But with that said, I don't think one individual is necessarily represent. You can always find someone who's terrible, like on especially online, right?
Let me ask you this though, and I want to get into some deep subjects with you because I want to pick your brain a little bit. You've represented a lot of people that some would consider as election deniers. What do I consider an election denier? Somebody who says Donald Trump won the 2020 election. I want to ask you this now. Forget about your candidates. Did Donald Trump win who won the 2020 election?
Well, it's kind of an interesting question you asked, Brian, because where was this outrage when Hillary Clinton was challenging the results of
She
the
didn't.
election?
She conceded the next day.
But she kept questioning the legitimacy of the election.
How so?
She said, well, the
She said
Russians, and then even Stacey Abrams never conceded.
Yeah, but I don't care about Stacey Abrams. Let's focus on Hillary Clinton. She conceded the next day.
Okay.
Donald Trump has yet to concede. Isn't that a big fundamental difference?
He did transfer power back to Joe Biden.
But he's never conceded. Hillary that night conceded.
Right.
She did call him an illegitimate president,
Okay.
but that wasn't because she thought that the election was fraudulent. She's talked about this multiple times because of his behavior, because of the things he said about John McCain, because of his attacks on women. That's why she calls him illegitimate.
Okay.
But she's never said the election was stolen. She's never said that the Republicans cheated. Don't you think that's a fundamental difference?
No, I don't really see what the difference is. I mean, as far as, because illegitimate means it's not real, it's not legitimate.
That was a personal attack on Donald Trump,
right?
Saying he was illegitimate. She wasn't saying that the election was illegitimate.
Okay.
To me, so you can't. Okay, so let's talk about this.
Sure.
Why can't you say that Joe Biden is a free and fair elected president?
Here's what I know: Joe Biden's president. Right.
We know that.
And we know that. Right. So my opinion on it doesn't really matter.
But it's important, your opinion, because you represent a lot. That's why I'm asking you, because you represent a lot of clients, a lot of Republicans, a lot of people in the state know who you are. Don't you think it's important that you represent clients trying to win elections and be willing to admit, which is fact, not fiction, that Joe Biden won a free and fair election? And the reason why I say that is because there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud that could have changed the outcome.
Because I don't think it was 100% fair. And I think if we were playing a game of Monopoly and then all of a sudden we decided that, we're going to change the rules of how Monopoly goes, I don't think that would be a fair game. In the middle of the election, while using COVID as a justification.
Yeah, we were in the middle of a global pandemic.
Right.
Yeah.
And they changed the rules, right? They said every single person on the rolls gets a ballot. And you're telling me that there's no possibility of fraud if, I don't know.
I never said there's no possibility of fraud. What I say again is there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud that could have changed the outcome of the election. And until somebody provides me that evidence, Joe Biden won a free and fair election.
Sure. Well, here's what I'll tell you. My wife, she was part of the election integrity task force. She volunteered for that for Trump in the 2020 election. One afternoon, she found a dead voter, right? And I was like, imagine if we did a full canvass, right? So I'll concede that there is not any evidence of widespread enough to convict in a court of law. But I think when there's smoke, there's fire. But I also think it's moot at this point. And I do think there are things we can do to restore faith in our elections. Easy things like voter ID, which 80% of Americans agree with. And I just think that when you have a situation where everyone gets mailed a ballot no matter what, and it gets sent to your apartment, and you go to any apartment mailroom and there's stacks of ballots and anyone can just fill that out, I think that's right for voter fraud.
If you want to talk about things, or any Republican,
Sure.
and you want what you're talking about now, things that you think would make an election, voter integrity, I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is people saying that Donald Trump won. What I have a problem with is people not being able to admit that Joe Biden is a free and fair elected president. There's going to be fraud in every election. We all know that. But Donald Trump to this day will not and probably to his death, admit that he lost. Let me ask you another question, and this is part of my frustration with this. In 2016, 2015, Donald Trump said the Democrats were going to rig the election. The Democrats were going to cheat. Hillary was going to cheat for months before the election. Then something happened. Donald Trump won. And then for the next 3 years, I didn't hear anything from Republicans about election integrity or the election might have been stolen. And then he did the same thing in 2020. He did the same thing in 2016. He's doing the same thing now. Don't you find that interesting that in 2016, he said the same stuff, that it was rigged, and then he won, and then all of a sudden it wasn't rigged? Don't you find that interesting? Don't you think he loses credibility? He did the same thing, Woodrow, in 2016. He said the election was going to be rigged and stolen, and then he won. And then all of a sudden everything was okay. Why is it okay when he wins, but when he loses, it must have been rigged? That's my question.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you, Brian. I think he's seen what a lot of the things I've seen. I've gave you an example. I would say that if it's not rigged, why can't we just have these very simple, easy ways to secure our election? Why does every single person, if they're on the ballot, need to receive a ballot? I mean, just the other day, someone posted on Twitter about an anime character who's registered to vote at a strip club. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw that, but it was completely unverified, and Jesse Waters did a story on it, who I think is the opposite of credibility. That's never been verified. It's somebody that throws something out there, never been verified in a court of law. We have no idea whether they're telling the truth. Why should we believe that? Like, I believe something when it's proven, proven fact. Like, for example, when the DOJ says it's our most free and fair election in 2020, I tend to believe them over a guy like a Donald Trump who can't admit to losing anything. That's just my point there. And I know what story you're talking about because I talked about it on this show. Jesse Waters throws out this story completely unverified. We don't know. We don't have the evidence of it. We don't know if that's even true or not.
Which part are they questioning that's not verified?
We have no idea whether that mail was sent to that strip club. Where's the mail? Where has it been proven?
Sure.
Has it been proven in a court of law? We have no idea if that's true or not.
I mean, I bet I could probably look up that address right now and
I'm sure
find it.
I'm sure you could, but if you look up the address, that still doesn't mean that the story's true.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
And let's just say that is true.
Right.
Let's just say, hypothetically, argument's sake,
right,
that is true. Okay. We hope that stuff doesn't happen, but that still doesn't mean that an election was rigged or stolen, right? Would you agree with me there?
I mean, that one case doesn't necessarily prove the whole thing, but I think where there's smoke, there's fire. And, ultimately, I will say that Republicans need to do better. I mean, as far and
I think the message needs to be better.
Well, look, I would, I think that if, I think voter fraud has always existed and it's going to probably always exist.
Then why don't I hear about this after a Republican wins? Why didn't I hear about this in 2016 or 2017 or 2018? I didn't.
You did. You heard it from Democrats. So
who said the election was stolen after Hillary lost?
I mean, I can send you a whole reel of people who did.
Okay, people is different than like prominent people.
Prominent Democrats who said it.
They said the election was stolen.
They said it was illegitimate. They said
Trump was illegitimate. They didn't say the election.
I think you're splitting hairs here, but
I don't think I am. I don't think Trump is legitimate. Here, Woodrow.
Yeah.
Donald Trump won a free and fair election in 2016.
But
he won. Why is he illegitimate as a human being? Because he's a scumbag. I think a 34-count felon should make you illegitimate. I think when he said the stuff about John McCain, I don't respect him because he was captured. That should have made him illegitimate right there. Despicable statements. A liable sexual abuser. You know the list here. I don't need to go through the list with you. So when I say he's illegitimate, it has nothing to do with the election itself. It has to do with, I think it's beneath the presidency, his behavior and his actions. So I want to talk to you about policy, though.
Okay.
I want to get into conversations, not personal attacks on Donald Trump. But before I get to that, I always wanted to ask you this because you, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you were hired back in the day to investigate election fraud before being tasked with organizing a rally, correct? Do I have that right so far? Is that fair?
What year are we talking about?
This was the event where you were working for another company, and you had said that you needed to get the Proud Boys out. You remember this story?
I do remember that story.
Okay, is that true? Do I have that right?
Well, it's kind of interesting. You actually look at that story, and you were talking about courts of law earlier. That individual actually, and here's what I'll tell you.
Sure.
The most far left activists are the most passionate. The most far right activists are the most passionate, right?
Sure.
And my job is to build, is work with everybody to get my guy elected, or, whatever my political goal is for my client.
Even if it's an extremist group that has a violent agenda.
Well,
that doesn't matter.
Well, you should ask Democrats that question. They have Antifa.
Well, I'm not asking about Antifa, though. I'm asking you specifically about the Proud Boys. If a Democrat was in studio, I'd ask them about Antifa.
Right.
But the Proud Boys have been labeled by the Anti-Defamation League and the Southern Poverty Law Center as a hate group, an extremist group that, primarily misogynistic, Islamophobic, transphobic, and anti-immigration. Even if those types of people will support a candidate that you represent, is that what you want?
Well, it's funny because if you actually read that story, I didn't actually tell them to go anywhere. It was offered to me, and I actually said, no, never mind. We're not going to do that. So,
but you said, I want to get the Proud Boys out. What did you mean by that?
So, and listen, I have some NDAs on this, so I can't talk about it too
Understood.
much. But
if you can't talk about it, I respect that.
But
I want. This is why I'm asking you this. I don't want rumors to be out there.
Right.
I want to hear it from you.
Okay, but what I will say is, I never organized any Proud Boys. I never had any substantive contact with Proud Boys. The person who I was talking to was someone who actually was embedded with the Proud Boys and offered to send these people over. And by the end of the conversation, I said no. So if we're going to use,
so what did you mean then when you said you want to get the Proud Boys out? What did that mean then? If you didn't want them there?
I mean, at the end of the conversation, we said no. So I think.
Well, I think you made the right decision
Right.
there in the end.
Yes.
But would you agree with me that these are not good people we're talking about?
Well,
this is not a good organization.
I didn't really know much about them at the time. This was before Jan 6.
Okay.
As far as I know, they're a drinking club that likes to show up to Antifa rallies.
Would you agree you might have been wrong back then?
Maybe. I don't really know much about them. I don't. It's not my job to defend them. I just, at the time, I saw them as passionate conservative activists, and this person offered to send these people to this rally, and then by the end of the conversation, I said, no, we don't need to send it.
Why do you think? And this is the same topic. Why do you think when Donald Trump was asked about the Proud Boys on a debate stage, he said stand back and stand by? I mean, it is funny. You're right, because it's so ridiculous, right? I mean, what president with any moral compass would say that? It's absurd. I'm going to take you for your word. Maybe you didn't know a lot about them. Okay, fine. I'll take you for a word on that. The president of the United States, when asked about the Proud Boys, says stand back and stand by.
I don't think he knew much about them either at the time.
You really think that?
Yeah. I mean,
could it possibly be, Woodrow, that maybe he just wants their support and he didn't want to say something derogatory about a despicable group of people? That's my opinion. Could it be possible that he did know who they are, but he just didn't have the moral compass to call it out? Could that be possible?
No, because ultimately, I think, things have gotten so bad that, even the word racist has lost all meaning, right? Anyone who doesn't agree with the liberal point of view is racist now.
I don't feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, of course you don't, but
I don't feel that way.
Yeah.
But I think when you have certain people like the Charlie Kirks of the world saying when they see a black person as their pilot, they get worried. Yes, I think Charlie Kirk is a racist. He's made horrible derogatory comments. I think when Donald Trump says, I don't want black people counting my money in my casinos in Atlantic City, but I want Jews counting my money, when I think you have a history of thousands of civil lawsuits that he's lost in New York City way before his political life, and his father, was arrested at a Klan rally, I think one could make assumptions that Donald Trump might have some racist tendencies. I don't use that term loosely, and I was criticized for saying it felt like a Klan rally at the Trump event. Let me be very clear, and I think you've heard me say this on social media. I don't think everybody who supports Donald Trump is racist. I don't think everybody that was at that rally was a Klan cultist.
Okay.
But the cult word is why I compared that to the comments, because I believe it's a cult.
Okay.
Do you not think it's a cult when people buy $750 gold sneakers, they buy Trump Bibles and Trump condoms, they show up at 7 o'clock in the morning to hear the same bumbling speech that he makes every single time? That's why I say it's a cult. It feels like a cult to me. Am I wrong?
Well, you said it was a Klan rally, right? So let me deconstruct your word. You didn't say
Sure.
it felt like a cult rally. You said it felt like a Klan rally.
Right. And the reason why I said that were for a number of different things. First of all, I see the Klan as a cult. I see a lot of the people that show
But
up.
they're a racial organization, and you had, me, I'm not even, I might look white, but I'm half white, right? I'm half Asian.
Understood.
You had,
I didn't know that about you.
and I assume you're ethnically Jewish. Is that, yeah, and I don't, I've never been to a Klan rally, so I have no idea.
Neither have I.
But I can only imagine that you probably, you had a person yell at you, but
I had multiple people yell at me, and then Newsmax came up to me, and that interview didn't go very well.
I think I would venture to guess that worse things would probably happen to you if you went to an actual Klan rally.
So I don't think everybody there is a member of the Klan.
Right.
Again,
but you said it was a Klan rally.
I said it felt like a Klan rally from
Right.
the aspect of, first of all, cultish, number one, and number two, let's be honest, I was at the rally just like you were. Overwhelming, predominantly amount of people there were white. There were very few. There were some minorities there. Very few minorities. Again, do I think everybody there is a Klan member or racist? No, I'm sure some of them were. They were selling Confederate flags there. There was a group of people that were selling Confederate flags there. Disgusting. I think we could both probably agree on that. But I think it's a cult. You don't see malarkey signs on the back of pickup trucks. You don't see people decked out in Biden Bibles and Biden sneakers and all this other stuff.
Well, Joe Biden's not that inspiring of a figure. I mean, you even said yourself, you're really mostly voting for Biden because you don't like Trump, right?
It's an anti-Donald Trump vote.
Yes, and I think that's where most of the base of his support is. Put that in contrast, Barack Obama. I mean, would you call that a cult? I would call that
Absolutely not.
I would call that just like I would call Donald Trump. These are just passionate supporters.
They weren't selling Obama Bibles. They weren't selling Obama $600 sneakers. And when I use the term, because you use the term inspiring, do you think it's inspiring when you attack POWs, when you attack women based on looks, when you attack minorities? Well, let's talk about this.
Right.
When you say you don't respect somebody because they were captured, in my opinion, I don't think that's funny. I think that's disgusting, especially from a guy who dodged the military. Would you agree with me there, regardless of what you think about John McCain, when he says he doesn't respect him because he was captured? Can we agree that that is utterly repugnant to make those statements about a POW?
You know what? I would never make those statements.
I know you wouldn't.
I didn't.
That's not what I'm asking
I certainly didn't like it when he said it, but I mean,
I know you wouldn't make those statements.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you about
Yeah.
your character.
Right.
I'm asking you about his character.
Right.
He is running for president of the United States, and he says he doesn't respect John McCain because he was captured. Imagine if Joe Biden made a statement like that. Imagine if and by the way, you would have the right to go after them because I would call it out as well.
So here's what I'll say. I respect people who serve.
As do I. I said that about Flippo.
And I appreciate that. I think that there's a double standard here. I think when there was an individual in the studio, and I'm supporting him now, so I'm not going to name him. There was an individual in the studio who I felt was disrespectful to veterans, and you didn't hold him to account on that.
Who?
I'm not going to say because I support this person now.
There was somebody that was disrespectful of veterans, a Republican or a Democrat?
A Republican. So what?
It certainly would be a possibility that I didn't hear it because I don't tolerate those sort of comments.
It happened right here, right in front of your face, and you didn't do anything
about it. Okay, so you're
it.
talking about John Lee.
And what I'll say is, I
didn't know you represented John Lee now.
I don't.
Oh, you don't.
I don't.
Okay, so
no, I'm a Republican. And I want Republicans to win everywhere. Right.
So I didn't. I didn't necessarily agree with everything John Lee said, but I didn't see it the way you saw it, and I didn't interpret it as disrespectful towards our brave men and women in uniform. And I think there's a fine line difference between what we're talking about, what John Lee might have said here, and a man who's running for president that says he doesn't respect a POW because he was captured. I mean, come on. This is like night and day here.
I mean, I don't think he said those exact words, but I will say
I tend to not respect people who were captured. Quote, that's the word he said.
Is that
quote? They were talking about John McCain. Yeah. The interviewer said, he was a POW. I tend to not respect people who were captured. Quote.
I don't think that's the exact quote.
I mean, you could find it. Go ahead.
But what I will say is that sometimes, and I see this happen, is that again, respect their service. Colonel Flippo served our country honorably.
Absolutely.
But sometimes people who serve will use that as a shield to prevent them from being attacked on legitimate policy.
I don't agree with that as well. I'm with you there, but I don't believe that's what John McCain was doing.
I mean,
and even if that was the case, let's just say worst case scenario. somebody's using their service and they don't want to be challenged on anything, even if that was the case, to say that you don't respect somebody that was a POW for 5.5 years is so beneath any oath of office, in my personal opinion.
Right. Well, I mean, look, you could play the clip. I don't think that's exactly what he said. I actually have an idea in my head of what he actually said, but
so we'll get that clip.
Yeah.
And do we have it right now? Okay. Let's play it. Go ahead.
Supported him. He lost. He let us down. But, you know, he lost. So I never liked him as much after that because I don't like losers. But Frank, let me get to him. He hit me. He's not a war hero. He's a war hero. 5.5 years. He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
I like people. Okay, you can cut it. I like people that weren't captured. He's not a war hero. He said that. He uttered that.
Okay, so different than what you said, though.
He's not a war hero because he was captured. Not calling him a hero because he was captured. He also said he's not a war hero. He is poo-pooing on a guy that was a POW. He's not a war hero because he was captured. I think most of us would agree, if you're captured and you're a POW, that you're a hero. You serve this country. You're a hero. He's not a hero because he was captured. This is the same guy who dodged the military multiple times. How do we know that? Because his doctor, who has since passed away, members of his doctor's family have written statements saying that their father put out a note so that Trump could dodge the military about him having bone spurs. This is the same guy who dodged the military. Can we agree that those statements are I know you wouldn't make those statements. That's not, it's just disgusting. It's beneath the oath of office. I don't care whether you're running for a mayor or the president.
I don't like the comments, but like we're talking about something that happened now, I think 9 years ago. I think there's legitimate policy concerns with John McCain, and I believe that, a lot of times he would justify his terrible policy positions with his military experience. And it's not the comments I would have made, but that he made them.
Why are you such a staunch Donald Trump supporter? What is it about Donald Trump that you love so much that you're such a big staunch supporter of his?
Well, let's start with, I think we've had this idea of like having this really nice president who's just really nice and perfect. And Obama was a nice guy, but
nobody's perfect.
And one, nobody's perfect. But two, I think Americans fundamentally, they want someone who's going to go in there and change things up. They don't want a nice guy to go into Washington. They want a guy who's going to, turn the table on the money changers, so to speak. And when we've had it, I think there was this tech guy who supports Trump. He said, we've had an A/B test. We've seen what life is like under Trump, and we've seen what life is like under Joe Biden. And I know you don't agree, but I think most Americans would agree at this point that we were safer under Donald Trump. We were more prosperous under Donald Trump, and we were more confident in America under Donald Trump. And I think in November, I think the voters are going to make their voices known and show that we need Donald Trump back in office.
You mentioned the term money changers. He spent more and put us into a bigger deficit in 4 years than Obama did in 8. He gave the biggest tax breaks for the top 1% of this country than any president in our lifetime. As far as confident in America, do you think those people on January 6th were confident in America? They don't seem to be very confident in our elections. Does January 6th happen if Donald Trump is not the president of the United States at that time?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Does January 6th happen if not for Donald Trump?
There's such a butterfly effect of life. I don't even know how you would, I don't know.
Okay, I'll be more specific. I'll be more specific. If Donald Trump months before January 6th didn't say that the election was stolen, he didn't say that Joe Biden cheated, which he didn't. He didn't say that Democrats cheated, which they didn't, and he didn't say that Joe Biden, shouldn't be the president because it was a rigged election. Does January 6th happen?
I don't know. I mean,
You think January 6th could possibly happen if Trump didn't make those statements about the election?
I have no idea, Brian. I can't predict.
Oh, you're a smart guy.
Yeah.
You're a smart guy. I know you're a smart guy. I know you know what I'm asking. And you know those people were there because of the statements that Donald Trump made. You know that.
Okay.
You're not willing to admit that?
I mean, I just can't.
They would have stormed
speculate.
the Capitol? Do you think they would have stormed the Capitol if Donald Trump didn't say the election was stolen months before January 6th?
Brian, I think it's just really irresponsible for me to speculate on any of that. So I don't even.
You think that's speculating?
Yeah, I think it's speculating.
Why do you think they were there that day?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them, Brian.
You don't know why they were there.
I
You know a lot of these people that were there.
Do I?
Don't you don't? Don't you? You're in this business. You're saying you don't know a lot of the
Who
people.
do I know that was there?
You don't know anybody that was there that day.
I don't personally know anyone who was there.
You don't personally know anybody.
Yeah.
Can you guess why they were there, or you don't want to do that?
I mean, I think that would be speculative. I mean, I think
They were there because they thought the election was stolen.
Okay.
They were there because they wanted to overturn the outcome of a free and fair election. They were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." This was not Antifa. That was disproven. These were Proud Boy members, a group of white supremacists and people who were lawless, who stormed the Capitol, many of them attacked police officers. Now, listen, there were hundreds of thousands of people there that were not violent criminals. They weren't arrested. They didn't do anything wrong. And while I might disagree with their politics, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking specifically about the people who Donald Trump called hostages and patriots. Some of those people, you've seen the videos, attacked police officers, physically assaulted police officers. And I know you're a Trump supporter, and I know we're not going to agree on a lot of things, but can you agree with me? Doesn't matter whether it's a Black Lives Matter protest or January 6th. If you physically assault a police officer and you're in jail, you're not a hostage and you're not a patriot.
I would agree with that limited statement that you made. I would also say that, we do live, you've called back to this court system many times, and whatever happened there has to be due process. And
they all got that. Can we agree on that?
That's not what I heard.
What did you hear?
I hear that a lot of people were held for indefinite periods of time without trial, for unreasonable periods of time without trial.
Okay, that's not what I heard. All I
Okay.
know is that every single person that went to jail had the right to defend themselves in a court of law. They had a
Mhm.
right to an attorney or attorneys,
Okay.
and they had an opportunity to provide evidence. Many of those people copped plea deals.
Mhm.
Some of those people, the violent criminals, and I'm talking about those who assaulted police officers, are still in jail.
Mhm.
But I guess that's the point. Yeah, go ahead.
Talked to Kash Patel about this. I know he has an organization about some of the people at Jan 6 who were not given their full rights, and he could probably talk more intelligently on that. But that's just not what I heard.
When
So,
you hear Trump talking about two-tier justice system, right? Liberal judge, liberal jurors. And then you see the difference of what happens when Hunter Biden is convicted of a crime. And I don't hear Joe Biden or Hunter Biden attacking a judge or the judge's daughter. I don't hear Hunter Biden or Joe Biden attacking the jury. They accept it. Don't you think that's a fundamental difference?
I mean, I think there's real questions about that court case in New York. I mean, my understanding, Judge Merchan's daughter actually does what I do for Democrats, right? And has raised money for Joe Biden and has.
So does that mean that the judge couldn't have done this case the right way?
I think it's reason to believe that he didn't do it the right way. And then you see that, you saw that other comment that was online where someone purporting
Which
to be
was debunked, by the way.
Was it debunked?
Completely
Yeah.
debunked.
Okay.
That was an imposter on Twitter who even openly admitted complete fake story.
Okay.
Complete, as Donald Trump would say, fake news.
Fair enough.
So, I mean, you look at what happened to Hunter Biden.
Mhm.
A lot of people could argue, well, listen, if this wasn't Joe Biden's son with an unloaded gun that he didn't commit a crime with in 13 days, that he probably wouldn't have been convicted, or at least, there would have been some sort of plea deal.
I actually agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that because honestly, the charge in itself was kind of a bullshit charge.
Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you this then. We
Sure.
agree. So let me ask you this. Can both be true? Maybe something could be politically motivated, but maybe don't break the law.
I mean, no one should break the law, but I do believe that both cases were politically motivated to some extent.
I don't necessarily disagree with that.
Mhm.
All I'm trying to say is maybe don't break the law either. Is it possible that they could be politically motivated? Sure.
Mhm.
But do you find it interesting that all these people around Donald Trump, they're either convicted felons, these are people that have certainly been in trouble with the law. All these people that surrounded, Bannon going to jail July 1st, Navarro's in jail right now. All these people surrounding Donald Trump, the people that will probably be testifying against him, including Meadows
Sure.
and others. I mean, is this just bad luck for Donald Trump and everybody out to get him? Or maybe Donald Trump's not a good guy, and maybe he hires people around him that are not good people?
I think if you spent enough time watching someone, you'll find them breaking the law. And it could be something dumb, something as, I mean, I found out the other day that using someone's Wi-Fi without their permission is a crime, right? Like,
But you know that's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
We're not talking
I mean,
about
we kind of are. Like, what are we like?
are?
What was he charged?
Espionage Act? Well, let's talk about the indictments that he's facing.
Because we're talking about the New York case, right? And
Sure.
we're talking about the Stormy Daniels thing. I mean, most Americans think this is kind of a bullshit thing, right?
Well, if he falsified business records,
Okay.
it's pretty stupid, which I believe he did. He was convicted on that, 34 felony counts. But I look at also his life, what he's done in his life, the past, and the future, the 3 indictments that he's facing. Why did he defy a subpoena for a year? Why didn't he do what Joe Biden did, just turn over all the documents and cooperate? If he didn't do anything wrong, or he didn't think he did anything wrong, then why did he supposedly ask some of the employees at Mar-a-Lago to hide evidence? By the way, apparently Jack Smith has the video of that. Why would you defy a subpoena for a year? Why would you plead the fifth all the times that his family has pleaded the fifth? When he said on the record, if you plead the fifth, you're probably guilty. He's pled the fifth over 500 times. Has Joe Biden ever pled the fifth? Has Hunter Biden ever pled? I mean, you get what I'm saying there.
Again, Lois Lerner pled the fifth, right? If you remember that. But I think you have the right to plead the fifth. And
I didn't say you didn't have the right to plead the fifth. All I'm saying is Donald Trump said, if you plead the fifth, you're probably guilty. Another quote of his, another brilliant quote of his. He's pled the fifth over 500 times. Why did he defy a subpoena for a year? Why? Why would you do that if you didn't do anything wrong? Why would you defy a subpoena? Oh, geez, we sent this to Mar-a-Lago. Geez, let me give them back. Sorry about that. We wouldn't be talking about the Jack Smith case right now. We're talking about the Espionage Act. I mean, I don't know. I think this is serious. I don't know if you do, but I think it's serious.
I mean, the whole Stormy Daniels thing is, I feel like it's such a ridiculous thing. I actually think he was extorted, in my opinion.
You don't think it happened?
I don't think it happened.
So why did he pay $130,000?
I think he was being extorted. That's my personal belief. But
so why weren't they able to prove that in court, you think? If in fact you believe that he was extorted?
I don't think he got a fair trial.
You don't think he got a fair trial? So you think he just paid her $130,000 at a thin air because she was threatening to lie about sex that they didn't have?
Yeah, I think that's totally plausible, actually.
All right. Well, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion on that. What we do know is that Donald Trump is a 34-count convicted felon, regardless of whether you think it was unfair or not, right? We agree on that. He was convicted.
He was convicted,
Okay.
yes.
So here's what I want you to do if you're willing to do this, and if you're pressed for time, then I want to hear you talk about Joe Biden. I have attacked Donald Trump. I've put you in a corner probably 10 times,
Right.
and I appreciate you at least trying to answer some of my questions. But I want to pick your brain about Democrats and Joe Biden. I want to hear your criticism about his administration. If you're willing, are you willing to do that? To stay for a
Yeah,
couple-
sure, why not?
Is that okay? To be fair, I want to hear you talk about Joe Biden.
Okay.
All right. So can we do that when we come back and maybe
Sure.
take a couple calls?
Absolutely.
Is that okay?
Why not?
I appreciate that. You're a stand-up guy for doing this, and I appreciate it. Even though I'm hammering you with questions, I'm peppering you with my Donald Trump questions. But
Paying for my loss.
no,
here.
listen. You're a stand-up guy for being here, and I appreciate you being here. He's Woodrow Johnston. He's a Republican political strategist and a CEO of Revere Solutions. I want to hear his criticisms of Democrats when we come back. I want to hear his criticisms of Joe Biden. Listen, there are a large portion of Republicans that are not happy with the Biden administration, and I know Woodrow's one of them. So I want to give him an opportunity to talk about that. We've talked enough now about Donald Trump. I'll open up the phone lines at 702-221-7283. And again, the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back in 90 seconds with your calls, and I want to hear Woodrow's criticisms of the Biden administration and Democrats in general. We'll take a quick break. Your call's next. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Tired of the same old date night? Craving a deeper connection with your partner? O-Box is your escape into a world of romance and passion. Each month, discover a box filled with personalized surprises, exciting activities, and a love story written just for the two of you. Ignite desire, share laughter, and make memories that last a lifetime. Your O-Box journey culminates into a beautiful love novel. Ready to write the first thrilling chapter? Let the O-Box adventure begin. Visit our website, obox.com. That's OBOXXX.com and get started.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840.
STN Sports is the only sports betting app you need this season. STN Sports has it all. In-play betting, mobile parlay cards, the Play Plus card to fund and withdraw from anywhere in Nevada, and the latest lines on every game. STN Sports even lets you earn rewards on every bet. Safe and easy betting from your phone or tablet. Go to stationcasinosports.com or sign up at any Station Casino, Fiesta Wildfire, or the El Cortez. Details at the sportsbooks.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits. Hey, check out my good friends at Jackson's Bar and Grill. I know a lot of people like to blame Joe Biden for the gas prices. Well, guess what? Here's your chance to win free gas cards. Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. They're giving out $1,500 in free gas every Thursday. Today's Thursday. Get more details. Check them out. Show your TAM card on Tuesdays, and you get $50 in free slot play. Jackson's Bar and Grill. We got Woodrow Johnson in studio, Republican political strategist, CEO of Revere Solutions, and he's a stand-up guy for coming in here. And we've gotten into it on social media. Probably be more my fault than his, but he's willing to come in here, and I peppered him with a lot of Donald Trump stuff. But now I want to give him the opportunity to talk a little bit about Joe Biden and criticisms of the Joe Biden administration, and I think that's very fair. As long as we're not talking about Hunter Biden's penis, as long as we're not calling him a pedophile, as long as we're not talking about what are your criticisms policy-wise? If that's a fair question about the Biden administration.
Well, let's start off with, just the fundamental differences between the Republican and the Democratic Party. I believe in free markets. I believe in small government. Those are the beliefs of the conservative Republican Party, and the Democratic Party does not believe in that. And, ultimately, you said earlier, you criticized Donald Trump for first of all, he lowered taxes for everybody, not just the 1%.
Biggest tax breaks for the top 1% in decades.
I mean, if it's if it's a percentage cut and someone has more it's going to, of course, be more money that they cut. Right. I mean, so our country is less safe now under Joe Biden than it was under Trump.
Murder rates are down throughout the country. If you look at the DOJ, you look at the numbers that are being put out.
That's been trending that way for forever.
I'm
talking about from a national security point of view. I'm talking about the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. I'm talking about we have Chinese spycraft in our skies. I'm talking about.
Can I ask you about that?
You can. Go ahead.
I don't mean to interrupt. botched withdrawal in Afghanistan. John Bolton, who worked in Donald Trump's administration, said they both had almost identical policy when it came. I agree with you that the withdrawal was terrible. We lost innocent life, soldiers. One life is too much. Terrible. I agree with you. Mistakes were made. But when you have a guy in Trump's administration, John Bolton, who says the policy of Trump was almost identical to Biden, and you're a Trump supporter and you're criticizing the Afghan withdrawal, I'm confused with that.
I think John Bolton's a bad actor.
So he's lying.
I think John Bolton was one of the people who did not want to see Trump succeed. Earlier you said that, oh, well, Trump said this about veterans. He called veterans, losers, which I don't believe happened.
So you think if the general is lying, a man who's risked his dedicated
I think John Kelly was lying. I think John Kelly, whose top advisor was was Miles Teller, I think his name. He was the anonymous Trump official who said he was part of the resistance inside the White House. Yeah, I absolutely think that the people like John Bolton, people like Miles, people like John Kelly were part of the resistance inside the White House who don't want to see Trump succeed.
But almost everybody that worked in Donald Trump's administration are not supporting him. Don't you think?
That's not true.
Well, when you look at the 30 plus generals and those that worked underneath him, Mike Pompeo being one of them, his own vice president will not be supporting Donald Trump in the elections, people that are going to be flipping and testifying against him. There comes a point where don't you say to yourself, well, geez, maybe there's something wrong with Donald Trump. All these people are not going to be supporting him. There's a lot of people that worked in Trump's administration that are not supporting him this time around.
I think there's maybe a number of people, and I think whenever you run a organization as large as the United States government, you're going to have some bad apples.
But Joe Biden's been doing this for how long? 40 years, 45 years? Where are all the people that have worked for Joe Biden that are saying, I can't stand this Joe Biden. I'm endorsing Donald Trump?
I'm sure those people exist.
Where?
Yeah, I mean,
where? I haven't seen any of them.
There was. I mean, one, I don't think they'll get the same kind of coverage. Anytime you get a Republican who's going to say something bad about Donald Trump, that person gets the CNN job, the MSNBC job, gets all the press coverage they want. I mean, you look at Miles, he's gotten so much press coverage. He's been one of their go-to people. So
I'm certain if people were in Joe Biden's administration or prior administration that were bad-mouthing him and supporting Trump, they'd be on Fox News and they'd be on OAN and Newsmax. I just don't see them because I don't think they exist. Anthony Scaramucci, another guy who worked for Donald Trump, not very long.
I see, right?
The former Nevada Republican chair who I'm friends with, Amy Tarkanian, who was very pro-Trump, is no longer pro-Trump. I mean, we can go local, we can go national. I hear what you're saying. But if you would agree with me that if someone worked in Joe Biden's administration and worked hand to hand with Joe Biden and was trashing Joe Biden the way that so many are trashing Trump that used to work for Trump, they'd be on Fox News and they'd be on Newsmax, wouldn't they?
I mean, some of them are. I mean, Dan Bongino
Dan Bongino was never worked in Joe Biden's administration. Dan Bongino
he worked for Obama, right? He was Secret Service. Yeah,
you get what I'm saying. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I didn't say that. That Democrats weren't good at this as far as making sure that their narrative gets out there.
But you mentioned small government, right? You criticized Joe Biden. Let's focus on some of the things you said. Telling a woman what to do with her body. Is that small government? Trying to ban abortion, what they did in Arizona without exception? See, to me, that's the opposite of small government. That's government interfering with a woman's health.
I believe that the government its primary function is to protect individuals' rights, to protect, to protect an individual from violence from another person. And I believe, and many Republicans believe, that unborn child is a human being and has rights. So I don't see it the same way you do, and that's okay. But that's.
But here's the difference, fundamentally, and you tell me if you disagree. I respect your opinion. If you want to have 100 kids, Woodrow. That'd be a lot of kids.
Working on it.
How many kids do you have, by the way?
I got one and one on the way.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
If you want to have 100 kids, I would never tell you what to do. And I feel like the opposite argument is women are murderers. Any woman who gets a legal abortion is a murderer. I mean, do you think that if a young child, God forbid it does happen, I wish it didn't, is raped, they should be forced to have that child? That's what the Supreme Court in Arizona believed. What are your thoughts on that?
As far as what?
If a young girl is raped, she should be forced to have that child, or the victim of incest.
I think most Republicans believe that there should be some exceptions, rape, incest, life of a mother. For those who don't believe in those exceptions, I think there's good faith arguments. I know people who were the products of rape who are fantastic people, but that's not my personal opinion. But I also understand why, if a life is created, I think that life is worthy of protection and consideration. And the idea that I think just framing it as a individual rights of the woman, which women have individual rights just like any other person, but I do believe that that unborn child has rights.
60% of the country, Republican and Democrat, in just about every poll when asked about this issue, while they don't believe in late-term abortion, neither do I, and very small amounts of people even get there unless the women health is at risk.
And by the way, even overwhelming numbers don't agree with not late-term abortion, but also government-funded abortion.
Okay, I understand that, but 60% of the country believe in a woman's right to choose. Isn't this you're a Republican strategist? Isn't this a losing cause for Republicans?
Not necessarily. I think that there's always nuance, and there can be some nuance on this issue. And I think that most Republicans believe that, they don't believe in late-term abortions, which you admitted that most people don't believe in.
Sure.
And they also believe that, there should be exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother. And I think that's a pretty mainstream position to hold.
Would you be okay though with like, hey, 3 months after the 3-month mark, unless there's health exceptions for the female?
I mean, you're asking for my opinion, or
just yours in general.
No, in my opinion, no. But that's just my opinion. It's not reflective of my clients or anyone.
I understand. But you think abortion should be against the law throughout the country?
That is my personal opinion, and not reflective of my clients or anyone I work for.
Understood. So, I understand that. Okay, so you talked about small government. Give me, and we'll take some phone calls, but give me some other criticisms maybe of the Biden administration, because I have some criticisms too, but I want to hear yours.
Well, we talked about it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And mostly, I always go to the national security stuff, and then I also go to, just the economic stuff. And I know you said gas prices aren't controlled by the president, but
well, they're not.
Well, look, whether they are or not, gas was a lot cheaper under Trump.
And why do you think that is? You think the war in the Ukraine and coming out of a pandemic?
Well, we wouldn't have a war in Ukraine if Trump was still in office.
Why do you say that?
Because I believe that Putin doesn't respect Joe Biden, and Putin respects Trump, and he would never do something like that if Trump was president. I just don't believe he would do that.
Because you think Putin likes Donald Trump?
I think he respects him.
And you think he would not have invaded Ukraine when Trump was president?
I do.
He would have stopped and said, geez, you know what? I like that guy, Donald Trump, so I'm not going to invade Ukraine.
I think he understands what Trump is capable of, and I don't think he would do that.
Why is it that Donald Trump has never called him an evil, murderous dictator the way Joe Biden did? Why is it that when when Donald Trump was on a stage with Vladimir Putin, he took the side of Vladimir Putin over our own intelligence?
I think that if you are trying to keep peace in the world, and Joe Biden said this himself, your job is to bring the temperature down, not raise the temperature up. And going and saying, hey, you're a terrible person, how is that going to help maintain peace in the world?
Well, I think calling out someone for being a dictator and doing what Vladimir Putin did, I think it's important to call that out. Are you okay with Donald Trump writing love letters to Kim Jong-un, who is another evil, murderous dictator? Don't you think that makes us look weak? When you're writing love letters to a man who's responsible for killing hundreds of thousands of his own people?
I think that Donald Trump brought the temperature down in that Korean situation, and that war was technically still going on, and you had the president of North Korea and the president of South Korea meeting with each other. That hasn't happened in a long time. And I think something like that, he should be getting a Nobel Peace Prize.
You think Trump should get a Nobel Peace Prize?
Absolutely. Barack Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize for much less, just for talking about peace with Cuba, just talking about it. He didn't even do it.
Yeah.
So I think that, absolutely. I think that, I think a strong president has, speaks softly and carries a big stick. And I would say that has been Donald Trump.
I'm not sure Trump speaks softly.
Well, he does.
And I don't know if he has a big stick, but I'll leave that one alone. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Woodrow. I'm sorry. Terrible joke. Go ahead.
No, look, I believe that he didn't start any new wars. He did, and he destroyed ISIS. And I believe our country was safer under Donald Trump.
So if someone would say, well, wait a second, if that's the case, then let's use that logic. There was a global pandemic and China created a virus where millions of people died in this country. Why is it nobody wants to put any responsibility on Donald Trump? If you want to make the case that Joe Biden is responsible for the war in the Ukraine, which I would fundamentally disagree with, if you want to make the case that Joe Biden is responsible for what took place in the Middle East, which I would fundamentally disagree, then why not put some responsibility on Donald Trump for what China created, which was a global pandemic?
So you said it yourself, China created it.
Yeah, and I would say Vladimir Putin created it. I would say that Hamas created it.
You think Hamas and, I'm sorry, maybe I'm misunderstanding you. Are you saying those organizations created COVID?
No.
Or created the crisis?
No, what I'm saying is that the crisis in the Middle East, Hamas is an evil. I think we probably agree on Israel, right? They have a right to defend themselves.
Right.
And I appreciate the fact that a lot of Republicans out there have stood strong on support for Israel. I'm with them.
Okay.
But Hamas has been an evil terrorist group since the mid-'80s, right? I don't think that had anything to do with Joe Biden. I don't think Hamas said, hey, let's not decapitate babies and throw them in ovens and rape women because, Donald Trump's president. Let's wait until Joe Biden's president. I just don't see that as being the case.
I do, actually. I mean, believe it or not, I think that America has to show some leadership. And, Biden has been waffling on Israel, right?
What is he supposed to do?
He should be supporting Israel.
You don't think he has? He sent them more artillery and more money than any other
I think he's
president
been
in modern
speaking
history.
on both sides of his mouth on this, right? And he's had to because the base of his party doesn't want him to support Israel.
I think there's an extreme far left, for sure, which I've criticized. But when you say Israel has a right to defend themselves, but they also have a responsibility for the least amount of innocent casualties, do you disagree with that statement?
I'm sorry, what's your question?
Do you disagree with the statement when Joe Biden said Israel has a right, and he said this multiple times, Israel has a right to defend themselves, but they also have a responsibility for the least amount of innocent casualties?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, isn't that kind of what he's been saying all along since October? Because I've heard him say it repeatedly over and over again. He's given them more artillery than any other modern day president, but he also is frustrated with Benjamin Netanyahu, and I think Joe Biden's in a very difficult position.
He's in a difficult position to be sure. I just believe that if Trump was in office, we wouldn't be in this situation to begin with.
Unemployment rate lowest it's been in 50 years, even before COVID started. The Chips and Science Act, we can obviously talk a lot about what he put together with Jon Stewart when it came to helping our brave men and women in uniform and giving them the health care that they deserve. Gun laws being put on the books, bipartisan, by the way. When you look at the countries that we compare ourselves to when it comes to the economy, one could make the argument we're doing much better when it comes to inflation than they are. Dispute those statements?
Look, you can cherry pick any single data point and say this is evidence that the economy is actually doing well, right? And
well, compared to other countries that we compare ourselves.
Sure.
Yes.
But what I will say is that if you look at any poll about Americans' confidence in the economy, it's all bad. It's all bad right now, and it's the opposite of what it was under Trump. If you look at our head-to-head polls, when you look at who they trust more on the economy, they trust Trump on the economy more than they trust Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And that's a fact, right? So yes, you can point to this statistic, and I don't have any statistics prepared. I'll be honest, I don't. And if you want, I can
but a
come
new
back
poll,
to
sure, you're welcome to come back anytime. But a poll that just came out, that a Fox News poll that Joe Biden said, I don't. By the way, I don't pay much attention to polls because every poll said that Hillary Clinton was going to win in 2016, and she lost. But there is
she won a popular vote.
Well, yeah, we could talk about that too. Why do you think 7 of the last 8 presidential elections, Republicans constantly lose the popular vote? Why is that, Woodrow? Why is that? Why does the overwhelming majority of people in this country disagree with the premise of what Republicans stand for? That is I'm just going by the popular vote.
Sure.
Why is that?
I think being a Democrat is considered the default in this country. I think Democrats, liberals, they control academia, they control the media, they control all the major institutions that affect the culture in society. So of course there's going to be more Democrats than Republicans. I'm amazed there are any Republicans when we don't control anything like that. I'm a conservative, and I grew up in San Francisco. It was like 95% Democrat. I think that, I don't know. I can't answer that as far as like why, but I do believe that, being a Democrat is just the default in our society. And there was a saying someone told me once: if you are under 30 and you're a Republican, you have no heart.
Yeah.
And if you are over 30 and you are not a Republican, you have no brain. I mean, that's the saying, right?
I hear you.
Yeah.
We could definitely debate this longer, but I do want to give people, there's people, our phone lines are jammed and people want to talk.
Oh, no
I'm going to
kidding.
give you the opportunity. Do you
Sure.
want a MAGA supporter to call in first, or maybe somebody that would be more on my side? I will give you the opportunity for the first call.
That's going to be fun. You know, look, let's talk to one of your supporters.
Okay.
And we'll do MAGA after.
Okay, so Numchuck, who do we go to? Mark? Is he a supporter? I don't know. All right, let's go and put on those headphones so you can hear the caller, Woodrow.
Okay, fantastic.
And let's take some calls. Let's do it. 702-221-7283. Mark is first. Hey, Mark, what's going on?
How are you, Brian?
I'm doing good, Mark. What's on your mind, my friend? You're on with Woodrow.
Woodrow, 100% I know, guaranteed 100% that you never served a day in the military. And there's a reason why I'm saying that.
You're talking to Woodrow. Okay.
Yes. But first, did you know, Woodrow, that Donald Trump initiated the withdrawal from Afghanistan? Did you know that?
I did.
And did you know that Donald Trump denied Joe Biden a briefing prior to taking office, which every other president allowed the incoming president to be briefed? Did you know that? Also, gas prices, you said, were lower. Well, no one went anywhere during COVID. You stated that the United States
Before
was
COVID,
safer during Donald Trump, right? But you failed to mention how many millions of people died because Donald Trump stated that COVID is a Democratic hoax.
He did say that. All right, let's give Woodrow an opportunity to respond. Go ahead, Woodrow.
Which part should I respond to first?
Anything
So
you
much-
like. Your
so
choice.
much to unpack there.
Your choice.
So, okay. I don't think
Afghanistan withdrawal started with Trump. Stop with that.
Okay, we can start with
I don't think I have no credibility to talk on this just because I didn't serve in the military.
Oh, but you blame Biden for the horrible withdrawal without knowing the real facts.
Okay.
Well, let's let him respond to that, Mark. Go
Sure.
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So, which part should I start with?
The Afghan withdrawal.
The
The
Afghan-
fact that it started with Donald Trump. And,
One, I don't know if that's true. I do know that.
But
there
that's important.
Yeah, I do know that he did get a briefing at some point. I don't think he did not ever get a briefing. I don't know if that's fact check that. Yeah, I don't believe that's the case. So I'm going to reject that on its face. And yes, Trump was planning on withdrawing from Afghanistan. I believe I don't like war. I think if we go to war, we should fight to vigorously to end it by destroying the enemy. Frankly, that's I believe the tack that Donald Trump took with ISIS in particular. I believe that if Trump was overseeing the withdrawal, it would have been a lot better. And look, I get it. Like we'll never know what a Trump withdrawal under Afghanistan will be, but I believe it would have been better.
702-22. Thank you, Mark, for the call. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Al, who's next up on PTL. Hi, Al. You're on with Woodrow. What's going
How
on?
you guys doing? A few things that I wanted to ask both of you, Brian. And usually I call in, I have something positive to say, but in terms of Nevada, I don't think crime is down. I think people's cars are getting stolen because I know I knock on doors.
Depends
I'm active.
which crimes you're talking about.
Cars.
Depends which crimes you're talking. It depends which crimes you're talking about. The
Okay,
most
that's
serious
fine,
of
but okay,
crimes,
that's fine.
murders throughout the country, and the most serious crimes are down in 2023, and they're down in 2024. Yes.
That's a possibility. But here in the state of Nevada, and I blame the Democrats because of their policies. Okay, people are walking into stores and taking groceries.
We have a Republican
in
governor.
California.
We have a Republican governor in the state of Nevada.
Yeah, but the problem is that it's a policy that was put up by the Democrats. Okay?
Sure.
That you can't even go in there. You can't go over there and chase the guy down. In California, you can. Okay, the limit for stealing something is at $1,200. In California, it's $950. They want to bring it down, and the people who put that law in a place were the Democrats here.
Okay, so
Students are
here's
getting
what I'll
raped.
say to that.
I mean, no, hold on. Let me finish. Teachers are getting raped in school because of the policy of the Democrats.
What?
Okay, and then
Teachers are being
because
raped
they passed
because
that
of
law in 2019.
Teachers are being raped because of Democrats.
Teachers are being raped because of the policies of the Democrats. The 2019 restorative justice law.
So when
that they
Donald
passed-
Trump raped E. Jean Carroll, was that Democrats' fault as well?
No, I'm talking about
okay.
Nevada.
I was just asking.
Let's stay
okay.
on the subject.
All right. Well,
I'm talking about
we're
Nevada.
talking about rape. I mean, the guy who you support is a liable sexual
but
abuser.
I'm talking
Brian,
about
like
the
that
guys,
restorative
I'm talking
justice
about the
stuff is
teachers.
real though. Like
So
that happened
so
here.
because Trump did that, then it's okay that
I'm not
teachers
saying
get
it's
raped
okay.
here in Nevada.
I'm not saying it's okay, but you're literally supporting a liable sexual abuser. Not saying it's okay.
I'm not
Rape
supporting
is one of
anybody.
the.
I'm talking about Nevada. You know that I'm not a big Trump guy.
But you're still going to vote for him over Joe Biden.
So, yeah, but that doesn't have anything. I'm talking about the teachers
But Brian,
that are
like you
getting
can't
raped.
just go to Trump every time someone brings up a good point.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So here's what I'll say to that.
Exactly
Here's why I bring it up, and here's what I'll say to that. Rape is one of the worst. I think we all could agree. Rape is one of the worst crimes anybody could commit. If you can provide to me the actual policy that you believe Democrats put forth that enables people to rape teachers.
He did point it out. He said restorative justice.
Yeah, I'll tell you that.
and
I
I
just
will-
told you that right now.
Okay.
The 2019 a restorative justice law, which gives students basically, so many rights to attack teachers, and teachers can't defend themselves.
Okay, so yeah, so first of all, if that's the case, then I would absolutely disagree with that policy. But the reason why I bring
Exactly.
up
So we have to restore that.
Okay, I don't
So here,
listen.
here in
Let me be
Nevada,
clear. I think-
Democrats are not doing well defending. I mean, if rape is not a violent crime,
What Democrat is saying?
Getting killed.
What Democrat is saying rape
students
is not a
getting
violent
killed
crime?
Is not a violent crime. We've had about 3 kids killed in schools here,
What Democrat
and
in
it's because
office?
of the Democrats' policy.
What Democrat in office has said rape is not a violent crime?
No, I didn't say that. I'm just telling you that the laws that they created enabled people to get raped, to students getting killed in school.
So I would have to look at that
and teachers getting attacked.
I would have to, and thank you, Al. I appreciate your call, but I would also have to look at that and see if that pertains to violent crime like rape. I don't know if it does. I would be willing to bet that it doesn't, and that if a student rapes a teacher, Democrats are not only not defending it, they're not making it easier on the student. But hey, I will look into that and I will find out about it. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to JD, who's next up on PTL. Hello, JD.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call. Just to reemphasize what Al was talking about, President Obama and Holder many years ago put in place with the teachers union restorative justice in the schools because too many blacks were getting expelled for crimes. That's true fact.
Okay, what type of crimes are we talking about?
Whatever kids do in school, beating up teachers, that's happened here in Clark County many times.
They're just black kids that are doing that, or I'm confused.
The majority of them were black males, yes.
Okay.
And that's why Obama and Holder put it in place. You're talking about Iran. You say Iran, Biden didn't do anything to cause the Middle East war. The first thing Biden did was give $255 million when he was in power, when he took over the presidency.
And why did he do that, and where was that money used?
He gave $255 million to the Palestinians.
And what was it used for? What were the laws?
Supposedly it was butter and eggs, but
no, not supposedly. Hold on. Not supposedly. Let's be factually accurate. There were stipulations with that money that was used, and that money had to be used for food and medical care. And those assets, by the way, were frozen.
And Brian, you know this. You're smart enough. It never happens. The majority of them went to the
okay. Well, you
went
don't
to
have
the military.
You don't have evidence that that's true.
He also released all the sanctions that Trump had on Iran regarding their oil sales and lifted $100 billion in sanctions. That gave Iran the money and the wherewithal and probably the initiative to attack your people in Israel on October the 7th. It's a fact. He supported Iran because they're trying to get the Iran nuke deal that Obama and he put together 10 or 12 years ago.
And as I repeat again, that money that you're talking about has been frozen, unused. And I would also say that this
No. He released it to them. They have gotten it back. Plus, he also gave them $10 billion for
You just
$10
brought
million
up Barack Obama, and I'm telling you that money was frozen. And I'm also saying if you do care about hostages, then why don't you care about the 1,000 hostages that were they were terrorists that Donald Trump released during the Afghan withdrawal before he left office? I didn't hear you complaining about that. If you care about terrorists being released, why weren't you up in arms about that?
Say that again.
Okay. Woodrow, do you want to respond to what he said? Go ahead, because I don't want to repeat it. Go ahead. We have other callers.
You're talking about hostages that Donald Trump released?
There were 1,000 Taliban hostages that Donald Trump released in a deal with the Afghanistan withdrawal that not a lot of people seem to want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And
for 18 months, we didn't lose one American GI. Woodrow, am I right? Regarding the $100 billion in Iran sanctions that Biden took off.
I believe he's right about this. That I don't think those Iran sanctions were lifted by Biden.
All right. Well, JD, here's the thing that is frustrating about this conversation. And what's frustrating about this conversation, I think we all have a say and to blame for a lot of issues facing this country. Joe Biden's not, it's fair criticism, and same thing with Donald Trump. But the problem I have is when Republicans want to talk about the border, and Republicans want to talk about the withdrawal of Afghanistan, and Republicans want to talk about releasing terrorists. Republicans have done the exact same thing. Build a wall. Mexico's going to pay for it. He builds 16% of the wall. Mexico doesn't pay for it. While there are more immigrants in this country that are not legal in this country now than they were under the Trump administration, I would also say that there were illegals that committed horrific murders and crimes, and I didn't hear Republicans talking about that when Trump was president, only when Biden's president. I guess that's my biggest frustration with the call.
So I'm sorry, is your criticism that Trump's not conservative enough?
No, my criticism of Donald Trump is not that he's, first of all, Donald Trump's a Democrat. Let's just call it for what it is. And the only reason why he became a Republican is because he knew it was the best pathway to be the president. He's been a lifelong Democrat his whole life. We all know this.
Mm-hmm.
He's been, pro-abortion. I don't like to use that term, but he's been pro-choice his whole life. So no, I don't even think Donald Trump's a Republican. I just think he says and does anything so he can remain in power or get in power. Let's get back to the calls. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Kathleen. Kathleen is next on PTL. Hi, Kathleen. Go ahead.
Hi. Yes, I agree with so much of what you are saying, or really totally, Brian, and I appreciate it very much. But one of the things that you haven't talked about that concerns me greatly is Trump following the playbook of Hitler. The whole "Make America Great Again," that comes from Hitler. Hitler said in the beginning of his rallies, "Make Germany great again."
I want to let Woodrow respond to that. Go ahead, Woodrow.
I heard Hitler drank water. I mean, do we not want America to be great?
No, that's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous comment.
It's just as ridiculous as what you're saying, Kathleen. Respectfully.
No, it's not.
It's
Fact
absolutely
check
ridiculous.
it. Trump is doing so many of the same things.
I can find something Obama said that also Stalin said.
Okay, you gave me the phone.
Go ahead.
Woodrow.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Then do some research on history. Trump is following Hitler's playbook because he wants to be in power. And he has even said that there are things about Hitler that he respects.
Okay, so
that he admires.
Okay, so let me say this. She is right in this regard, in that Donald Trump has said on the record that Hitler did some good things. He did say that on the record. He's used the term vermin and other to describe Democrats. I would think that he is he's already said that he is going to be a dictator, at least on day one. And he's going to use it as retribution. While I am not comparing necessarily Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler, who killed 7 million Jews, I will say this. Donald Trump, in my opinion, looks up to evil, murderous dictators. If you kiss the ring of Donald Trump, you'll get what you want from him. I find that dangerous. If you not only support him, but defend him and kiss the ring of Trump, you're going to get what you want. And if you disagree with Trump, all he does is attack you. He'll attack you on looks. He'll make a nickname for what your first or last name is. So in that aspect, do you agree with that? What I am saying on my side.
What are you saying? I'm like, you've said like 20 things. Some I might agree with, some I don't. I mean, at least you acknowledge that it's frankly actually insulting to compare someone who killed 7 million people. I don't think Hitler would have moved the embassy to Jerusalem. I don't think Hitler would be, supporting Israel. Frankly, I think it's just such a ridiculous.
Well,
thing.
Let me ask
it's
you.
Just like this is where the discourse in our politics have gone.
So I'm not
everyone bad. Everyone I don't like is Hitler. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I don't talk like that, but I will say this. What do you think about him having dinner at Mar-a-Lago with Nick Fuentes, who is a known Nazi sympathizer, and then surrounding himself with who's the rapper again? I'm forgetting his name.
Kanye?
What does he call himself now? Yeah, Kanye West, who has praised Adolf Hitler. Now, he is surrounding himself around these people. He has dinner with Nick Fuentes. What would you say if Joe Biden next week had a lunch with Nick Fuentes, who is a Nazi? He's a Nazi sympathizer. Now, does that mean Donald Trump's a Nazi? No, but he's surrounding himself with these people.
Would you have Nick Fuentes on your show?
You know, first of all, I'm not running for president. I'd have to think about that.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't go very well. And the answer would probably be no. And the reason why I would say no is because this man has said so many disparaging things about my religion and black people. It's so awful. The answer would probably be no. Would I have Donald Trump on my show? Yes, of course. But he had dinner with the guy. And I think it's a fine line between when O.J. Simpson was alive. Would I have O.J. on my show? Do I think he's a double murderer? Probably. Would I have lunch with the guy? Would I hang out with the guy privately? No. No, I was offered to play golf with O.J. Simpson.
Oh, yeah?
I turned it down. Will you admit that's a bad look at least? Donald
Yeah,
Trump?
I admit it's a bad look,
Yeah,
but I don't think he knew that. I mean, that was before time.
You do give him the benefit of the doubt a lot.
Yeah,
You
hey,
do
you
side
give
with him.
Biden the benefit of the doubt.
On what? Give me an example.
I think.
Give me an
just the whole premise. You say, well, I think Biden's a good man.
I think he's a decent man,
he's just
sure.
old, and
Sure.
anything bad he's ever done, well, he's just an old guy.
No, I've
right?
never said that.
Right.
What bad has he done? Give me an example.
I
And
mean,
then
I-
I'll tell you whether I defend him or not.
Okay.
If I agree with you.
I mean, do you think he botched the Afghanistan withdrawal?
I think it was a mistake both between the Biden administration
Okay.
and the Trump administration.
Okay.
I think it was a botched event by both administrations.
Okay.
I'm not
Interesting.
defending it. I'm going by John Bolton, and I know you think he's a liar. I believe it was botched by both administrations. I'm not defending Joe Biden. Give me another example.
Okay. So we now know that it's extremely, you said earlier that you believe China caused the COVID vaccine.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody, it's a consensus, right?
Yes,
It was
but
Wuhan lab.
you know, for the longest time, Democrats called us crazy for saying that. They said, "How?"
Well, let's go to Joe Biden. What did
Right.
Joe Biden say specifically? And I'm going to defend that you disagree.
He was one of the people who said that we were crazy to think it was created in a lab, right?
No, he said it was crazy to think that Dr. Fauci created it or that we were a part of it or Democrats were a Democrat hoax. Democrats created it. That's what he said. Joe Biden has always been on the record as, and he's never denied the fact that it was probably created in a Wuhan lab. So let's be fair on
Okay.
that. I don't like the attacks on Fauci. But listen, we disagree on a lot of things, but listen, as I call out those extremists on the left, like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, they are despicable human beings. They shouldn't be in Congress, but neither should Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, Gymnasium Jordan, who's never passed a bill in his life, Kevin McCarthy, who said the day after January 6th that Donald Trump bears responsibility and then walked that back so he could remain in power. That didn't work out very well. I think there's a lot of crazy people and more crazy people on the far right today than on the far left. There are some crazies on the far left. No question about it. But that's my take on that. But if you have anything else on Joe Biden, like that you think I'll defend that you vehemently disagree with, I'm open to talking about it. Joe Biden's not perfect. It's an anti-Donald Trump vote. And when I say he's a decent man, what I mean by that, Woodrow, is good father, good husband, loving father, cares about his family. And I find that to be very important.
I
to
mean,
me.
would you say he's a better father than Donald Trump?
Oh, God, it's not even close.
All of Donald Trump's kids are successful, don't have criminal records, don't have any.
Well, that's about to change. But what I would say to that is Don and Eric Jr., what have they done? Have they served the way Beau Biden served this country? What have they done? Ivanka Trump, let's talk about her. She took $600 million when she was in Donald Trump's administration from trademarks from the Chinese government. Okay, now I know that Hunter Biden was making $50,000 a year from Burisma because of who his father is. But if we're going to compare, and listen, Hunter Biden's had drug addiction, but I look at Beau Biden and the life that he lived. And to me, it's not comparable to any of Donald Trump's kids. And to be fair to Barron, he's still very young. But you look at that family and you look at how many wives he's cheated on. Melania Trump won't even be seen with him. She didn't even go to the courthouse in New York City when she was there with Barron. And I see Hunter Biden's half mother that was standing by his side. I say, that is a loving mother and that is a good family. I don't see any positives out of this immediate Trump family and Jared Kushner taking $2.1 billion from the Saudis, right? Who in Joe Biden's immediate family works in his administration? Look at all the people, Laura Trump, look at all the people in Trump's family that he's hired to work in his administration. That's a criticism that I have. So when I say Joe Biden's a decent man, I believe it. Is he old? Is he not as sharp as he used to be? Is he feeble? Absolutely. Would I want somebody younger in office? Absolutely. But, I still take somebody who's old over somebody who defends January 6th insurrectionists, that attack police officers. But anyway, I don't know if you have anything else or any as far as Joe Biden, or we can take some more calls if you want, Woodrow. We're almost
Let's
done.
take another call.
All right, let's
These
do
are
it.
fun.
We have a MAGA supporter, 702-221-7283. I tell you I get half and half here. You didn't believe me, did you? Let's go to Julie. Julie's next. Hello, Julie.
Hello, guys. Yes, Brian, I would like to ask you a question. How do you feel about Biden administration removing Cuba from the list that is not cooperating with the anti-terrorist group? You know that the Cuba, Trump put Cuba in a terrorist list because Cuba is what is,
I am
and
unfamiliar.
training
I am
terrorists.
unfamiliar.
Let me finish, please. Let me finish,
hold
please.
on. We are pressed
And
for
you guys
time.
start talking.
Pot her down. Julie, I am unfamiliar with Woodrow. Do you know what she's talking about?
No, I'm not familiar.
Julie, I apologize. Julie, we both don't know what you're talking about. You sound like a nice lady when you call in, right? But I don't know what you're talking about, so I will try to look that up. You can send me a message, and then I'll get back to you on that. 702.
Juliet, feel free to send me a message about it too.
Yes, because I'm unaware. 702-221-7283. Let's get back to the calls. Let's go to Mohammed. Mohammed is next up on PTL. Hello, Mohammed.
Hey, how are you? I'd just like to say that I think you and Woodrow would be phenomenal if you just did a show every day. Every day.
Well, that might be true. That might be true. But I'm glad that Woodrow took the time, and maybe down the road, he'll reconsider one of his clients. Did he hang up? Maybe down the road he'll reconsider one of his clients coming on my show. Maybe we'll see. But thank you for the compliment. 702-221-7283.
I think we really be pushing the limits if we did that.
We probably would, but I think there's a way to have these conversations in a respectful way.
Right.
No question about that. All right, let's go to Patty. Patty is next up on PTL. Hi, Patty. You're on with Woodrow. What's on your mind?
Hi, Woodrow. Hi, Brian.
Hi,
I have
Patty.
a couple of questions. I've got a couple of questions for you, Woodrow. I'm a teacher. I'm a grandmother. I'm a Democrat. And I'm really pissed off now. I'm pissed off about banning books. I'm pissed off about not letting kids read books. I wanted to know, Woodrow, did you ever read a book that maybe your parents wouldn't have approved of in your life?
Oh, well, thank you so much for calling. My wife's also a teacher.
You're welcome.
So,
bless her heart.
Yeah, so I really
Mhm.
appreciate that. And yeah, absolutely. I definitely.
What do you think of banned books? Yeah, so we all did it, right?
Right. Well,
I'm reading a book.
For me, it was Playboy when I was like 11 years old.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry,
And I
Mom.
just
I'm admitting
wrote
to
a
it
book
now.
Okay, I just wrote a book about my experiences, and it's about to be published. But the whole idea was I grew up Catholic. I was a staunch Catholic. We did everything the nuns and priests told us not to do because it was fun, including, like you said, boys were reading porn. I just think it's so unnatural. And that you're a father. What are you going to tell your kid? How old is the oldest one?
My oldest.
How old is your one that's okay? Your wife's pregnant. But all right, think about pretend he's 6 years old and he goes, "Daddy, why do you like Donald Trump? Is he a nice guy? Is he?" What would you say about his morals?
Let's let him answer that question because I think that's a good question. And by the way, thank you for the call. Go ahead.
I think that Washington, D.C. is an absolute cesspool. I think that the bureaucrats in this country have ruined this country. And I don't want a nice guy to go to Washington. I want a guy who's actually tough and mean and is going to take a wrecking ball to the system over there. So I would say that there are plenty of, if I'm talking to my daughter or maybe my son one day, and that he asked me about Donald Trump, or frankly, I could compare him to, other biblical, to other figures in history who did good, who weren't necessarily nice people, or even biblical people who weren't very nice, nice people to their enemies.
I think there's I hear what you're saying, but I just think there's a difference between being nice and having a moral compass and not attacking everybody that disagrees with you. I think there's a big middle there. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, you want to be tough, but it doesn't mean you have to attack women on looks. It doesn't mean that you have to, call Ted Cruz's wife ugly or so on and so forth. But all right, we're running out of time here. Let's get some more calls. A lot of people waiting on hold. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Victor. Victor's next on PTL. Hi, Victor.
Hello, sir. How are you? How are you, everybody over there?
Good.
How's everybody over there?
Good.
Good.
Listen, can I answer to Julia?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Julia, listen to me. First of all, Cuba is not exporting or financing terrorists and killing children in Latin America or any part of the world.
Yeah.
To begin with, okay. To begin with.
Yeah.
Second of all, we are breaking the international law by not stopping the stupid embargo in Cuba. Why? Because people are suffering. People in Cuba is the one who's taking the biggest toll. Because the ones in power, they don't care.
I got to tell you something. It would be very entertaining to have this caller on with Julia at the same time. I would like to. Boy, hearing them yell at each other would be very, very entertaining. Thank you for the call. I'm sorry I'm pressed for time. We got a few more callers. Who do we have? 702-221-7283. A couple more callers. Let's go to Carl. Hi, Carl.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Johnson. Brian knows that I'm a retired psychologist. And the reason is I've been watching Trump for a long time, even before he was elected or went into politics. And you might not want to hear it, but I've diagnosed this man just from listening and watching and hearing what he says and seeing what he does. He's a pathological lying con artist.
Can I ask? Let's ask Woodrow that. Do you agree with that assessment, Woodrow? I have a feeling you're not.
I don't
that
know
he's a pathological liar.
I don't know if it would be responsible as a psychologist to give someone an examination through television appearances that are curated by the media to present a certain picture.
I agree. To an extent, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But can I just add something?
Yeah.
You know all the people that say Joe Biden has Alzheimer's. All the people out there that have no medical experience at all that say he's got Alzheimer's, he's got cognitive problems. Would you say the same to that? I don't disagree with you. But hold on, Carl. Would you say the same to that?
Oh.
I think people have seen the cognitive stuff, and I think they have a reasonable suspicion, and I would like to see an actual, medical examination of
So
Joe
can't
Biden.
people have reasonable suspicion of Donald Trump, though?
Well, he's purporting, the difference is this guy's purporting to be an expert, and he's making a declaration. I have diagnosed him. Those are his words. None of the Republicans are saying, I have diagnosed Donald,
No,
Joe
but
Biden.
they say he has Alzheimer's.
They
say he has cognitive decline. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's visible, but this guy is calling in. He's saying
Can I
he's an
explain
expert.
something?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Carl. Quickly.
Can I explain something real quick?
30 seconds. Go.
Okay. A psychologist or a psychiatrist is words and actions and whatever. It's not like a doctor who listens to your heart and takes your pulse and whatever. It's a matter of diagnosing how they act, how they react.
I get your point. No, Carl, I get your point. I'm up against the clock. Here's what I would say. If you're not a medical professional, if you're not a doctor, if you haven't given somebody an exam, I don't like it when they say, Joe Biden has Alzheimer's. Calling somebody a liar, I think, is different than, saying that somebody has cognitive decline. Let's take one more quick call. Let's go to Vivian. Vivian, what's up?
Hi, Brian. How you doing?
Good. You're on with Woodrow. Go right ahead.
Okay. I just have a problem with people have Trump amnesia. When you say that when Trump was in power, that people were like sleeping better at night and it was okay and everything. People were frightened every single day with Trump in power. Between his so-called policies and his things he was doing with in foreign countries, people were scared.
Woodrow, what would you say to that?
What was he doing that made people scared?
Just being friendly towards the communist people. He just made a comment just recently that he thought it was great that a communist leader could have 1 billion people under his power, and isn't that a great thing to have? He would love to have something like that.
All right. Well, Woodrow, what would you say to that? And thank you for the call, by the way. I'm up against the clock. Go ahead, Woodrow.
I'm just reminded of just kind of the what I see, like I'm not saying all, I'm saying some Democrats will go to children and say, can you believe that Donald Trump wants to put you in a camp? They never heard of it before or anything like that. Yeah, he's bad. I mean, like this, honestly, I blame the media for trying to blowing up a lot of these comments out of context.
I think the media is definitely responsible for blowing things up, like the Dominion voting machines and Fox News having to pay $900 million lawsuit. But I think it could go both ways there. But I want to give you, first of all, let me say, Woodrow, because we only got about a minute here. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you taking the shots and answering the questions. You're a stand-up guy for doing that. Tell me about Revere Solutions before we go.
Yeah, thank you so much. Right, so I am a Republican political strategist. Revere Solutions, we help Republicans win elected office or help various conservative political causes. We're A to Z, everything from polling to grassroots. Really everything a candidate needs.
I'm not as bad as you think. Was this as bad as you thought it was going to be?
Jury's out.
Fair enough. Well, listen, you're welcome back anytime. Anytime you'd like. And if any of your candidates that you're representing are willing to come on, I hope you would agree that I treated you with respect.
You did.
And I will treat any of your clients with respect as well. That is my promise to you, okay?
I appreciate
it. And I
it.
do appreciate you being here. And I think it was a good conversation. We got into it. But these are the conversations I like. Oh, by the way, speaking of getting into it quickly, tomorrow on the show, Laura Loomer's right-hand man, Charles Downs. We got into it. I know this will be a shocker to you, Woodrow, but we got into it on social media.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Charles Downs works for Laura Loomer.
You're so even-keeled on social media.
I know. Right, exactly. Charles is going to be joining us on the show tomorrow. So that's going to be another interesting debate via Zoom.
Good luck, Charles.
Woodrow, I do appreciate you being here. Thank you for being here. You're a stand-up guy. All right, everybody. That's a wrap. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard.